well, Lyric, is that, you know, you would talk about Yuekai champion diversity also in his nature. He's played 6 unique champions now with the Ornn mid. And I heard you oohing, it's because we get the Wukong through, is that correct, with the Talia ban?
Yeah, we got the Wukong and the Senna, so 2 different bans for the side of IG. So they were angling for a trade, which is what they're going to go for now, TS. Of course, taking away the Wukong, we've just seen how oppressive this champion is in pretty much every sense of the game. Strong ganks, creative angles, strong team fighting, engage, you're able to get away, like, you have everything. But IG now going to bring out the Senna Tahm Kench that we saw work super well for the side of V5 earlier on. I expect to see some types of champions who want to go in, who can be enabled by the Senna healing, able to come through. Or I guess you could even opt into the reverse and just try to outrange, but I don't really think that fits IG's style too much. So we might get 2 drafts that just want to go toe-to-toe with IG definitely definitely signaling they want to go in.
Yeah, I mean, look, honestly, on the other side for IG, though, we are just signaling that IG want these power picks. Like, we have 3 picks on either side that have just been all the time, if not banned, in 12.10. And Lyric, you know, I put a tweet out earlier on. Wukong's 76%. He's like 14-3. He has an insane win rate right now in the LPL, and
even higher now, right? Like,
oh yeah,
it's gonna be even higher after today's games. So yeah, coming in. I mean, we saw V5 get it both games and win on it. So yeah, making its way up. And now for IG, they don't want to deal with Wayward Sejuani again. They felt like he was way too proficient on that champion. Maybe a little bit too proficient, a little bit sus. For IG, I'm kind of curious to see where they want to go next. I would expect blind pick mid being in the cards for the side of IG. You have champions like Swain who are still open, who do very well against champions like Kalista, like Wukong, because you're going to be able to consistently keep them in your ult and keep that drain going pretty much throughout a team fight. So we're going to be looking at that one. And yeah, I kind of think that's just the next obvious step for the side of IG, unless they have more shenanigans.
Yeah, because does Silas ban give you anything? Like, normally we see Silas ban when teams are willing to pick up things like Galio or especially Twisted Fate to match that global pressure.
I think it could be done, but that would be very dependent in my mind on your top lane pick. Top Esports are going to ban that one out. Because if you're going TF here with your 4 picks, right, you're not really going to play too heavily down towards Senna Tahm. I guess you could if JackeyLove and Mark are overextending, which they could all lane, but this was the other pick that I highlighted, right? The Swain able to come out and at least doing quite well into the first 3 picks that Top Esports have locked in, as well as having the Senna healing on top of the innate healing that you already have in your kit as a Swain.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a hell of a lot. So for the first time, Yuekai is actually going to play a champion a second time. It's 6 unique champions picked up. We're kind of a bit of a surprise with how this guy's been going.
First time for a second time. You love to hear it.
You love to see it, especially with the way he's been going. We'll be questioning that top side pick because Zika will have the counter pick, but Lyric into Wayward, who looks like he's going to be going a little bit on the safer side with the GP that was banned last time around.
Yeah, so TS now going to kind of a bit of a mixed composition, right? Because GP, Renata, champions who like when you're coming into them. Now the Viego, now the Swain kind of setting up for that. But having some follow-up engage in the Wukong or some pick potential able to come out. And now for Knight, I'm really questioning what he will go for. Haven't seen too many like answers into the Swain. We've seen things picked like the Ari come out. I believe we've seen like Lissandra into it, but a lot of things that are taken off the board. Does he go for this?
Oh my god.
He does. Brand, such an oppressive laner. You're gonna have the burn able to come through as well. And my god, am I excited to see Knight piloting this pick.
Dude, everyone.
Man, when's the last time that this has been picked? Holy.
We're going to get it. I tell you what. We get a Riven on the other side as well. Like every other region, you know, playing like, oh, the meta's slow and nothing's happening. LPL, meanwhile, Nasus, Riven, Brand. We're getting things like Lilia. We're getting Shun's Kindred. Dude. This meta is so good for our region, and running into Game 2, I have one thing to say to you, Lyric, and one thing only about Top Esports. This composition loves circles. Wayward's ulti, massive circle. Barrels, circular. Wukong's ulti, circular. Knight, Brand's W, it's a massive circle. A ball, a fancy word for a circle. JackeyLove, his ult sends out someone in the shape of, you guessed it, a circle. This team is circular. Well, Renata's ulti's flat. I'm not getting into that. However, Handshake makes kind of like a ball, which is also a circle. Tell me otherwise.
No, you're right. Okay, we have the circles coming here through Mr. Geometry Teacher Hysterics. But my God, again, this was gonna be so fun. I'm like, the Riven's cool, but we've seen some Riven, right? We've had some Riven in the split, we had some Riven in MSI, but the brand really is something new coming out again. You have the burn coming out with your Ablaze passive, some max HP damage there. Brand is a very like cheap champion to come online because once you have Leandri's typically into the Rylai's, you are just incredibly strong. You throw an Oblivion Orb on top of that for like even more Grievous Wounds and more burn. Like, it's gonna be so fun to be able to see what Knight is able to do on the champion. And for the side of IG, I'm kind of interested to see how they bring this one together because you don't have any guaranteed lockdown, right? Like, sure, once you're Yuekai and you start getting your mandate on top of your Rylai's, you'll have the slow in there as well. But you're kind of dependent on Zika or Shun coming off on flanks to get fights started. And wow, Mr. Dade himself.
It was Dade. Wow, that long ago. We had the Nasus the other day, Lyric, which I had the pleasure of casting from Cube. But 2015, the last time it was played mid. Now, we know that Brand has been played support over the years as well. But, you know, mid lane is something quite unique. So Knight bringing it out, what is that, 7 years later? Almost 8 years later, I guess? Like,
yeah.
7 is the math there, as I struggled. So, since 2015, when Masters 3 were in LPL.
We're halfway through the year. Almost 8 was a good call, but you're right. Masters 3. I wonder what M3 looks like upside down. Okay, moving on is we get the Sad Mummy, and we get some trades coming out from Wayward already. And yeah, I mean, right, for Zika, we know he's going to be playing really aggressive. Riven is one of these types of champions who wants to constantly look for the short all-in trades, get your burst off back off, whittle the enemy down low enough so you can just look for that giant all-in. So I'm not too surprised to see Shun pathing up towards that top side right now when you have a champion like this whose trade patterns innately make her a very fragile champion who can be vulnerable to ganks.
On the note of top side, there's 2 corrupting potions that have been used, so only 1 left here for Wayward, but when he gets to level 3 and has the oranges, maybe we'll be talking about that a little bit less, or at least paying less attention. You were mentioning junglers before. Opposite side starts. Note the ward on the red buff here, so Shun will be spotted if he gets up to that lane, giving a bit of extra safety to Wayward here in the early game. But Lyric, who cares about top? It might be a Riven, and people are like, oh my god, Riven. But the brand is literally the hotter news. Walk me through a little bit about how this matchup goes again. You talked about the healing that can be reduced against Yuekai. I want a little bit more of a touch of the laning phase if you could.
Yeah, I think once Knight starts getting some abilities under his belt, he should be heavily favored in terms of being able to just constantly harass Yuekai down. He has the range advantage. If he can hit a pillar of fire into the seer, right, you're going to get the stun off. You're going to get a huge damage combo able to come out. So should be able to try and potentially find himself some priority. And then in team fights is where he'll definitely come online with his ultimate, right? The numerous bounces coming through and being able to win out. So top esports guaranteeing themselves not only a counter matchup such prio in the mid lane, but also something that just does incredibly well in the 5v5. It's just a perfect pivot when we were hitting on Knight's champion Ocean before this game started.
I mean, always a unique pick coming through. Knight impressing us here in the second game. And, you know, importantly enough, when you talk about compositions, we're just watching JackeyLove and Mark wail on Wink and XinLiu in this bottom lane. Like, XinLiu walking up to the wave as the Tahm Kench in melee. He's not getting too much luck with Lyric, and I guess we have to start talking about this because JackeyLove and Mark are not giving them a second to breathe. There's almost a turret plate taken at 3 minutes, 25 seconds. You are joking.
No, and right, I mean, we have a range support into a Tahm Kench matchup. These matchups have become a little bit better now that, you know, your dive is on your W, so you have some all-in threat, but with the Senna alongside you as compared to maybe something that does have more early game damage, it isn't going to do much. So ultimately, it's still just going to be you constantly taking autos, constantly taking trades from the Renata and the Kalista, and having to back off. You know, you're the one who farms, so you're the one consistently walking up to the wave, taking a lot of that punishment as well. So nice by top esports to just abuse their 2 winning lanes so far. They've had Tian hovering around that side of the map as they picked up that bot side scuttle. And now the ball's going to be in Shun's court for what he can get done. We've kind of already hit on that. For IG, they don't really have too many early options. The good thing is top esports bot lane, considering it is double ranged, means that they are very squishy. So Shun right now heading down towards this side of the map. If the lane state stays like this, potential gank angle for Shun to come in.
And if it doesn't work out, let me just point out that top is double the CS of Wayward. Like, Wayward's at 15. Zika with his early trade hurt so much as Yuekai is getting burnt to a crisp. Knight, great conflagration. Yuekai without any mana to stay in the lane and the HP bar. He'll have TP, folks, so he won't be too far out. Shun might be spotted out, but Mark has to flash away, and I'm not sure how far he can get. IG pouncing once again. Mark caught out, and there's no bailout for you. The bounty way too much. You're going to have to sleep in prison tonight.
Just overall great game to come out from Shun. Coming straight through the lane. They have the W from XinLiu to try and set it all up. They get his summoners, and now going to be able to force this one in. So IG taking advantage of that squishy 2v2 dynamic that top esports have picked up for themselves.
It's a great start. Once again, we get ourselves an IG first blood here in game number 2. A 500 gold lead, and Shun having the momentum enough where he already picked up the pickaxe, but now sitting on quite a bit of gold. So going to clear out the rest of his jungle. And Lyric, walk me through it from here, because when we know that this game can be quite volatile with the new picks we're seeing on our screen, I'm kind of curious as to how Shun can keep the momentum going.
Yeah, Shun now going to just keep trying to play around the fact that, you know, he was able to blow some sums on bot lane. This is going to work out because IG's bot lane needing to go for a bit of a reset right now, so I think he should just be looking to pivot back up and taking his topside camps, right? He has both Raptors and Krug still up. Looks like there's no positioning on top lane for you to be able to take any type of trade there. So for Shun, I wouldn't be surprised if he just consistently looks to punish the lack of flash on Mark down in the bottom side.
Okay, well, they tried to do that last game, and it turned into a dive, and not even try. They successfully did it in the first game, so feels like IG going back to what worked. Lyric, I want to ask you a little bit about what he can do the top side, though, because even though Wayward's level 6, Zika's still in control, and he's having a pretty good early phase on this Riven.
Yeah, and especially right now, right? Because we can see Wayward's wave is pushing in. Zika, of course, got his wave into turret, so the bounce back is coming on through. And right now you can see on the minimap, Zika's actually just zoning him out from the wave. So if he'd overstay there, if he tried to look to trade back and, you know, maybe get that one in, that's where IG were posturing to bring multiple members up. We even saw Yuekai head up towards River just in case anything did happen. That won't work, and now Wayward being put in that position, having to use the cannon barrage to try and get this wave into turret.
And Zika won't really care. It's a Riven, so he's going to be able to match this one as well. Attempting to stop it back, that's not even there. Meanwhile, on the bottom lane, Mark with a good little handshake. Abyssal dive to get out, though, and Tian now spotted on a ward. XinLiu and Wink back right off. Now that they know the jungler's bottom side, I feel confident if you should, knowing that top side, if presented, will be an easy play.
Yeah, and this is honestly so bad for Wayward because what Zika's doing is actually pulling the wave to keep the freeze, so he has to walk forward. Wayward was just spamming, like, assist me ping. So the only way this will get better is if Tian comes up. Luckily, it looks like he's heading up now, and Shun can't just spend all of his time on the top side, right? His bot side camps are coming up. There's other things that he needs to do so he doesn't fall far behind. So potentially bringing up Tian could be enough to just break this freeze with the fact that our IG are playing down towards that bottom side.
Because surely you put a bit more emphasis considering that Herald's up in 30 seconds, right? Or 20 seconds as of now. And with Zika, you know, having so much control on the top side, with the ultimate being down for Wayward as well, does it influence what's going to happen next to IG start getting a little bit more, ascertain, I should say, control?
They might be able to. I'm curious to see what IG does off of this wave, right? Because Zika now building it up so much, he's able to push it in. If he was willing to look for an angle to maybe like roam down or hover down towards mid, you know, just walk into river and set yourself up for Herald, that would have been nice. But the fact that Shun had to go clear his bot camps means that it's not possible. He will TP in and be extremely strong now, picking up some extra long swords. So for IG, you expect him to posture up for this Herald.
Not trying to get caught out, though. IG already starting and coming back in. Knight walks back in confidently. The Heartbreaker onto the brand, and Knight goes down. One of the weaknesses here as Cyclone returns, and Tian actually taking the brunt of the damage, but JackeyLove brings in Mark. The handshake onto Yuekai puts him in trouble, and he's got no mana, so he'll drop to the dirt as well. Both mid laners now dead, and Lyric, brand, very immobile champion.
Yeah, and I gotta say, that was just some miscoordination coming out from TS, right? Because Knight had that ward. Knight had vision around topside river. I think it was Tian.
This is brewing. Tian's still sticking by, you're right. Doesn't have the Cyclone, but still a lot of damage. Shun returning to the scene of the crime. And much like Horatio Kane, the sunglasses now on with Herald started.
Yeah, now Tian gonna be forced out. So IG should just be able to secure this one. But yeah, I mean, Knight knew they were there, right? He just saw them walk into the brush right in front of his face. Was banking on Tian being there because Tian was wrapping around for a flank, as we can see here. They walk up, you get some damage down, you spot out Xun, you still walk in because you can see the Wukong coming from the other angle. Completely mistimed though, just gets deleted and it evens out to a 1-for-1. Feels like this could have been a lot better for Top Esports if Knight didn't make that mistake. It would
be massive. Knight goes down and Yuekai might be the trade-off, but remember that IG picked up the kill and got the Herald afterwards as well, so despite JackeyLove having an impact as Blade of the Exile on the top lane. Circles begin for Top Esports, but Zika's out and Xun to the rescue. This is the lifeblood of Invictus Gaming, and Xun once again making sure his team gets through the early game.
And finally taking advantage of what Zika's been doing in topside, right? Pulling the waves, forcing them in, getting the bounce back, making Wayward's life a living hell, having to always question if he can walk forward. You even look at the vision towards the top side of the map. I mean, you have a control ward there in top lane brush. You have a control ward in enemy jungle. They have complete knowledge of what's going on, knowing that they're able to make that play. So for IG so far, they are doing well to just take advantage of the top lane matchup, right?
Yep.
Not really anything too tricky or intricate to come through. We talked about how they didn't have too much lane set up to come in, but Zika is making sure that IG have that all for themselves.
And they've got a gold lead as well, right? Not 1,000, but about to be shortly. For Invictus Gaming, there's a Herald to drop down, and that'll push it over the line. But Xun, who is going for the Kraken build on the Viego again, which has become more increasingly popular here in the LPL, is in a very big place. Wink has to be devoured. That's the ult from XinLiu as he steps too far up to the mark. No pun intended, even though maybe I did intend it. Lyric, we've got a Herald to drop down, and you need to start talking to me about how Xun could push this advantage further with it.
Yeah, for Xun, looks like already heading over towards the mid lane, but I like his plan so far of staying towards the top side of the map because, look, I'm sorry to keep doing it, but look at top wave again. It's just always in such a bad spot for Wayward.
Ping.
So IG, just keep doubling down on it. Keep hammering home on this GP. It is going to end up giving a dragon over to the side of TES, but it seems like the battle lines have been drawn, right? For TES, they're stronger in the bot lane. They're consistently winning out in those trades in the 2v2. And for IG, they're much stronger on the top half of the map.
Right, seeing the brand in game. It's all scripted, isn't it? Infernal Soul welcomes you to the Rift, and that's going to be a fire added with fire for Knight. I want to talk about the brand once again, Lyric. I have fun things to say here, because honestly, the last time we saw brand, as we saw before, was 2015. Doesn't matter. Heartbreaker over the wall. Forget me. It's all about Wayward up at the top side as Zika and Xun are on fire. Forget this brand. The real burning sensation is coming from this top 2v2.
Yeah, Xun out for mentions, and Zika's the one setting it all up. They're going to be able to take some plates. Xun also having the Rift Herald there as well. Top Esports trying to match. Tian coming around because JackeyLove and Mark have recalled it and are coming through lane.
Knight as well. Knight is on the chase. Tian wants a Cyclone to buy time, get that Pyroclasm in. Into the clone first. Cyclone #1. Knight is here. The Pillar of Flame. The Clasm out. It returns to himself. Zika explodes, and Knight on this very unique pick is finally on the board.
Yeah, so punishing IG, hoping to get some plate gold for themselves, maybe not expecting for the lane swap to come through in the bottom half, from the bottom half of the map. With no objectives up on the map, this actually, like, it doesn't mean too much, right? It's not too bad to come through. It also gives them a tempo advantage. They can take some plates, push in this lane, and then if they did want to swap back to bot side, they could, right? You go for your recall, GP pushes this one wave, you swap back, and then you also have tempo on the bottom half of the map. So a tactic we see quite often, as we see how Xun goes for it. Doesn't care about his ultimate. Just gets over the wall to layer down the CC. And with the damage between both of these guys, very easy for them to finish off the kill.
So, Luke, before we saw that little play, I was going to talk to you a little bit about Brand because, you know, being a new pick, it is always fun to bring up. He's gone for Rylai's first, but that is not what I wanted to bring to your attention. More so, I wanted to chat about neutral objectives with Top Esports. Having a Kalista, having Smite, of course, because you're a jungler and it's 2022. But also, Blaze the passive, 2.5% health damage as well, max HP damage. So it's huge when you think about how quickly they can shred through objectives. And for Top Esports, you know, they're such a ruthless team. I would not put it past them to have these cheeky little sneak peeks at things like the Baron.
Oh, of course, and even with the rest of your build coming out, right, because we expect the Leandries to be what comes out next. For Knight, I'm expecting maybe just going for that Rylai's first because it is a bit of a cheaper power spike, right? And the item still gives an absolute ton of AP with the 75. So gonna have some slow, gonna be able to chase people down. When the Leandries comes online is when he'll definitely be at his strongest point, though. Luckily for IG, they have good tools at bursting down squishy members. If Shun and Zika get on top of Knight, he is just absolutely dead, especially with how they've excelled, right?
Yeah.
We see 4 Mythics already picked up on the board for IG, and Wink sitting on the Emerald Glaive as well.
And XinLiu coming into the mid lane to save the day. Wink has been caught out a couple of times here, but props to man used to be known as Lucas, now XinLiu. He's been pretty good on this Tahm Kench. Bit of a trade here onto Tian. He wants a 1v1, but Shun is not going to get it into the double cyclone. Tian, that was him laughing in the face of Shun as he just decided to take that play, Lyric.
And it's just so weird how, again, we're seeing teams be so uncoordinated, so not on the same page. Yeah. He goes for that 1v1. His bot lane's in mid. You can tell he feels comfortable, but just a lot easier for top esports to be able to roam over multiple members first. And a 1v1 that he was winning, right? He's incredibly strong right now, considering he's already sitting on the plated steel caps, but... that was not it, IG. That was not it.
It's, does Wukong have counterplay? I guess is the question that hopefully Shun now knows the answer to. So Tian gets himself a free herald. And Shun, remember that IG, because of his efforts, because of what happened on the top side, IG were ahead by about 1,000 gold, held control outside of the Dragons, but nevertheless held control. Things turn a little bit here, Lyric, and we're zooming in the mid lane because for top esports, they've got a Dragon coming up, and they could use the Herald to put pressure mid, put pressure anywhere, and continue controlling the map.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, right? Go mid, push the wave back. You have Herald to threaten to force your way down to the bottom side and get yourself on soul point. And I think that's very necessary because IG's comp does scale incredibly well, having that Senna in it. You have very squishy members on the side of TS, so it'll be very easy for Shun to be able to set himself up for resets later on. So top esports want to snowball now. You have the Kalista. We've hit on the brand to, again, cheap build. You come online very early and have a power spike mismatch with the enemy team. So IG already having control of River is going to be rough, but there's the Rift Herald.
Yeah, it is. Okay, IG have to make some kind of response. Shun not jumping in onto Tian. Is it because he doesn't have his ult or because he's learned his lesson? We will find out shortly as Herald finally gets the shard. Teleport comes in and Zika, who's now joined the fray. With Dragon now spawning as well. There's damage coming on the side as Yuekai gets a never move, and Shun with a root down is only onto the clone. IG compact into this river. Remember that Wayward has his ulti, Tian does too. If top esports want to change their mind, Lyric, I guess they won't this time around. So IG getting the first Dragon is a nice win.
Yeah, so TS not wanting to force too much with the fact that IG are able to bring themselves back into River. I mean, they did blow Zika's TP to do it, right? To where Wayward still has this. So you have a TP advantage up in top side.
True.
So you could put a lot of pressure up in side lanes where IG are going to be the ones having to make tough choices of, hey, do you actually answer this split push pressure coming through? Or do I have to stay grouped up mid just in case Wayward goes for any type of play for the side of TS? The lucky thing for IG is both Zika and Shun are very strong. So if Wayward ever overextends, he's just easy picking for the side of IG.
So I want to go back into comps a little bit and how it all works. I got very carried away in Pick Fan. I talked a lot about circles for top esports. And I'll be honest, I'm lost in the trail of how this progresses. They're getting deeper vision and they're finding themselves, holes in the side lanes like we saw on the top side with Wayward breaching top lane out of turret. I want you to talk to me about what happens when these items do come through and top esports are in a team fighting environment, because it does feel like it all comes together nicely.
Yeah, for top esports, it's just straight up front to back. I think they have a very easy to understand composition.
Yep.
You bring Tian in, finds the Cyclone. You have tons of AoE damage able to come through with Wayward's Cannon Barrage on top of Knight's ultimate as well. But Knight may be getting dove.
Yeah, he's going to pop the Ghost, though. Gives him a bit of mobility as Zika now spotted out. Remember that Knight has Wave Clear 2 with the Pillar of Flame. Conflagration out with the Seer just narrowly missing. IG unable to bridge and burst open the mid lane turret, so they'll go elsewhere.
Yeah, they were able to, get a little bit of tempo advantage, just pushing in top wave slightly, everyone moving over to mid, but now it's going to be top esports window. Since they're bringing 4-man members stacked to mid as a unit, you can start going into River and getting that vision control down. Again, no objectives up for a few minutes. Baron will come up before Dragon, but neither team really setting their sights up towards the top side as of yet.
But IG is still hungry for it in the LPL. Sometimes we fight anyway. And it doesn't matter about those objectives. Minute 10 to a Baron. And just keep your eyes on as well as we still do these objectives, looking at 20, 25 minutes. Wayward being cautious here. That's worth mentioning because as IG spotted out moving down, Wayward wasn't going to overstay. Zika just returns to this side wave and continues pushing. And so, Lyric, let's come back to it as well. IG, what do they do from here? We've got a Riven that's in a very good place, and Shun was playing a lot towards Zika, actually still is. And it feels like they're still hitting on this condition, hoping to fan out as Jun's going to target him down. Wayward now eats an orange, but the Heartbreaker means they're fully committing until Zika says, nope, no ulti. I guess they're going to keep rinse and repeating this play.
Yeah, for IG, you kind of have two options, which is one, just keep that formation. You're kind of running like a 1-2-2. You have Swain to answer weak side. If your bot lane just catch waves, and you make that play down towards bot. Or you can even just have Shun hover over, allow for Zika to get prio, and then just overload mid and try and get to mid before top esports do. The rough thing about that is that Wayward does still have his TP, so it can be a 5v5 very quickly. So would have to be some nice coordination in terms of pulling the trigger on that play, which is probably why IG just feel more comfortable constantly trying to attack the side lane with the Riven.
I mean, it's getting harder and harder, though, right? At this point, you know, Wayward is level 13 on the GP, instant clearing waves with the barrel, and the barrel chain's coming up.
2 items.
Yeah, like, it's going to get harder and harder, and the dive capabilities are going to get worse. So here I'm kind of wondering, do top esports just keep the pace going, Lyric? Like, are you just comfortable knowing that, as you said, an easy front to back, but you have some really decent scaling as well that for IG should be able to be dealt with?
I think for top esports, it's a lot harder to force a fight because you need IG to come out of their safe space. You need them to come out of their base. Typically, right, that's why you need a neutral objective to come up to force them out so you can start layering all those AoE abilities together. So I think top esports are much more playing on the clock in terms of you're kind of waiting for that dragon to come up. You're waiting for Baron to push out, get deep vision, and let IG come out of their base so you can find that big 5v5.
Come out of your shells here. Knight with a good dodge from the never move onto Yuekai. The steer lands as well. JackeyLove's in. Handshake at the ready, but no cigar here as Wayward finally joins the fray as well onto Yuekai. The bar low. Pyroclasm's already come through as, excuse me, onto Knight. No, it hasn't, but finally follows in as IG are beaten up, but top esports are the members with a man down. With Knight through, you can see that ulti changes the pace. Mark does so much work here. Bailout comes in, and so does the ulti from Mark, but what else is going to hit? Top esports still defending nicely. Ends up being a trade as Wink goes down as JackeyLove still heading on forward. Shun jumps in again as well. Mark flashes Bailout onto JackeyLove, and he burns his own. Wayward TP's into the middle, but the barrel chain, maybe it was all a ruse, as going golden is Shun, who survives by the nick of his teeth. Tian trying to fly through. The clone doesn't do the work. It's shenanigans once again as IG top esports like to burn the midnight oil. And as Peter Garrett would say, our beds are burning.
All I know is top esports have no right to walk away from that fight as the team that gets the dragon. IG trying to layer the damage down. They force out a bunch of summoners, but just the one cheeky flank from Tian, enough to force members low and force it out. We're going to come into the replay, and I mean, the team's going in different directions, right? All of them trying to all in on this 3-man core. Then quickly, JackeyLove and Mark making their way down, leaving Knight exposed by himself. Has to pop the Zanyas or the stopwatch, gets popped immediately, and then yeah, overall huge win for IG for again just lack of coordination coming out from top esports, leaving Knight in that position, and then able to get some decent damage down. Yeah. The Renata ultimate does a good bit to make sure that Wink goes down as well, but I mean, huge by TS to be able to force IG away and get themselves onto Soul Point.
But my biggest takeaway from that is that these two teams, you know, although there's not as much blood as we saw in Game 1 or maybe in any of their other games, IG and top esports are happy to brawl. Like, that individual skills there, and it's surprising when we look at IG, and a lot of fans tuning in for the first time will be like, who are these players? Who's anyone on IG?
These two teams are soulmates. A lot like me and you. Yeah. Sorry, Jake's partner.
I thought you were going to say sorry to Orcs or Dagda, but that's okay. Don't worry about them.
You think I...
You're not worried.
You think I say sorry to those guys?
True. They're nothing in comparison to you. Absolutely nothing.
Dude, Dagda has Munch. They did those cute tweets together. Like those guys are vibing. And you know what? Ox has me as well. So.
Well, hang on.
He's also doing vibes.
Dude, I'm not sharing you. I don't think you know what this is. But I am sharing you.
You had that stint with Goldberg. I'm never letting that go.
Hey, He told me to shut up on broadcast, and then he left.
He did.
So I don't care. I actually don't care. Goldberg can stay over there. He's not coming back.
He actually did, dude. That was such chat energy. Came in, told you to be quiet, peace out.
And now he's not on the LPL. Oh.
What a lad, dude.
Oh, man.
So you're the secret shadow boss? That's why.
I'm not saying
That's
anything.
why.
Hey, Zika. Okay, here we go. Blade of the Exile used. We bring you back to the game because this Riven wants a 1v1 on the Wayward. Senna ulti flies through. Bit of shielding. I think Zika thought he'd do a bit more damage, but Wayward now with 2 and a bit items, able to keep up.
Yeah, able to do, I mean, right, Wayward now is actually starting to get massive with the fact that he has 2.5 items right now sitting on this Executioner's Calling, and is only going to get stronger. IG, though, trying to hard force in mid lane.
Yeah.
You'd expect this to be the time it's going to pivot up towards top side again. Get some vision down on top. You can just make TS nervous about what you're doing on the top side of the map. And then once it gets closer to Dragon, you can start pivoting down towards spot side while TS might still be left reacting to the vision you have on the top half of the map. So I think IG overall going through their steps quite well. And for TS, again, we're kind of back at that waiting game in terms of something coming up, allowing them to find the kind of 5v5 that they want to take.
I mean, that would be the 4th Dragon. They're on Soul Point. It's 2 minutes until the Infernal Soul has the opportunity to go to our first brand mid in 7 years. So right now, in a comfortable position as they buy their time. And you notice that down towards the bottom of the map, it's completely empty of vision, which seems to be good as Wink might be caught out, flashes into XinLiu's mouth. After the spit falls off, you have to think that that's not the first time that Wink's been caught out this game.
No, Wink walking up a few times, right? We saw earlier in lane where XinLiu had to blow that ult extremely early on just because Wink walks too far forward for a bad trade. But at least luckily is able to get away. The cooldown should be up before the Dragon is available as well, and that's where IG are looking to take their next stand, so shouldn't be too punishing. We can see if top esports are able to force an opportunity where they're able to exploit the fact that is on cooldown, but doesn't look like it with the fact that IG spot lane just goes for the reset.
I want to talk to you super quick. You know, there's a new champion coming out from Bilgewater, which is kind of insane. And
the waterbender
yeah,
thing.
looks like Legend of Korra with a water whip.
It does.
Oh god, it's quick.
It's pretty cool. It looks awesome. Though it does look like another champion where you're like, should this champion have this? Yeah, should this champion have this many like dashes? Or I think in the video it had where it was able to like put on some kind of shield and not get CC'd is what it looked like.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know. There's questions, but hey, it's not out yet. We'll find out.
Yeah, we will. Hey, I'll bring you back though because there are actually more important things to talk about. For once, 35 seconds until Infernal Soul. Top esports have the setup here, and you see that IG aren't bridging that gap towards the river as they burn the TP and trying to get into position. Lyric, you got to help me look out for what I need to see in this fight.
Yeah, for the side of TS, we're looking at Tian, right? Tian needs to set up, go in, cycle and come out, and you want the enemy right in front of you. A front-to-back formation, no flanks coming through. For IG, it's the opposite. You kind of want a bit of a crazier fight. You want Shun and Zika jumping onto a squishy backline target while Yuekai's up front drain taking and distracting. So we're looking at Zika and Shun on one side. We're looking at Tian on the other.
Now, Riven and Viego. Well, I'm also going to put in that Knight here in the perfect team fight. That Pyroclasm plays dividends. Zika has already flashed away, but the re-engage is here on top of Mark. He got thrown in by JackeyLove. And the beast of burden soiled is Yuekai. He's by himself. Meanwhile, top esports winning the fight by themselves with a numbers disadvantage to kick off. IG with 3 left on the board. Shun was the strongest, but now he's dead.
Yeah, I didn't even see how Wayward was able to find the 2 because I was too distracted by JackeyLove once again throwing Mark to his death. Yeah. We've seen this so many times in the series. Ultimately, it ends up meaning nothing because Wayward was able to clean up, and I'm sure we're going to get a replay of that one. And top esports now going to push in mid and make their way up towards the Baron.
I mean, Knight as well. His damage in that last fight did quite a bit. We'll have a look at the replay, as you said, but Baron, I now get to see the burn that comes through from Knight with the Leandries, with the Blaze passive. This Baron's going to go quick, and remember that Invictus Gaming have no jungler and no hope of stealing this one away. Secured by top esports, they run away safely, and that looks like that could be the big moment we reflect on for game number 2.
Yeah, I like that you continuously hit on the Baron able to come over from TS, right? Because Brand being one of the only mages whose Baron DPS is very similar just to an AD carry, just to an outright marksman. So great by TS to be able to burn that one down. IG get a bit of a consolation prize with the mid lane turret. But now we're going to get to see what happened in this fight. Again, I want to see how Wayward killed the 2 members. We know what happened up in topside. He throws Mark in, multiple members go in, but Shun here on the opposite side, walking into numerous members by himself. I guess just not expecting an ult comes out from Knight.
Yep.
We see Wayward able to walk forward as well with the barrels and the cannon barrage. And I don't know, it feels like from both teams this game, we're just seeing so many of these small moments where they're going in at such disconnected times.
True. Shun led the charge in this game. There was that crazy moment on top of Tian where we thought, Shun, what are you doing? You know, bit sus. This time around...
There was Knight in mid lane when he walked into the brush. We're like, what's going on here?
Disjointed, as you
Doesn't
said.
Stop.
It's rough because, you know, top Esports, a top 4 team from Spring. Yes, they're looking like they're going to take a 2-0 here, but a couple of moments in this game. Granted, though, IG have made those moments more, and especially that one feels like it could have thrown away so much with the Infernal Soul picked up. With Baron now here as well. Lyric, this front-to-back composition from top Esports are able to step up as the turrets and start pummeling away with already a 2.2k Baron power play.
Yeah, I mean, and they're just massive at this point in time, right? Knight is going to be dealing so much damage. If Wayward can connect the barrel chain, it'll be huge. Especially against IG's composition that is shorter range and walks into this damage like we saw there.
Well, Wink throws out the ulti, but it won't be much in response. You can see that once again an IG member caught out here. We had high hopes for this series, but top Esports seems to be too much. This powerful trident team with Wayward, Knight, and JackeyLove are punching a hole in the defenses of Invictus Gaming.
Yeah, so far, top Esports just looking indomitable in this series. I do want to give some credit to IG, and people might be like, IG's losing, IG's like gonna go down 0-2, but IG, if this would be their second loss, right, they lost their first series coming into the split, I think have just looked a lot more compelling and convincing than they did in Spring. Yeah. So overall, my takeaways from Spring to now for IG are still positive. Not able to be up to snuff against top Esports in Game 1, and not looking good so far going up against the Infernal Soul. But again, overall, IG definitely improved from Spring, which overall feels like a win if they can keep up that trajectory going forward in summer, right? Because, heck, we got 10 weeks of games. This ain't the end-all, be-all for IG.
I mean, you know, 17 teams in the league, you play 16 series. You might not versus top Esports again, but IG are going to have the chance to prove themselves throughout the split, as you were saying. It's only week 2. I'm really excited for Zika. I'm really excited for Yuekai. These new players into the league as of Spring are twirling heads as now they want this game to be a little bit more competitive. And IG kind of making their last stand in the jungle as they hope to shut down top Esports and find that crucial pick. And it might be onto Tian, but he's got a Cyclone at the ready as Everfrost comes through in the back line. Wink trying to stay safe, but look at Wayward at the top side. He's dealing with Shun as Renata ulti comes through once again. And Mark has done all he needs to in a choke. Did I say choke, Lyric? Because I think IG are being choked by top Esports in what seems to be a 2-0 series.
Yeah, great team fight to come out from TES. Mark hitting a gorgeous ultimate. IG just trying to make their last stand, but the damage with the Infernal Soul on top of top Esports is too much.
And I've just noticed that Wayward, sensing the end of the game, decides to buy 6 Cloak of Agility.
He bought everything back. He bought it back.
He sells it back. It's got to have that competitive integrity. But for top Esports, this team looking fired up, ready to go. We see a brand mid for the first time in 7 years, and Knight doesn't disappoint, but neither do this insane squad at the top of the standings.
I'm just glad. I'm sure someone on TS is like, hey, Wayward, don't do that, get your items back, because I think that's something players have gotten in trouble for in the past. I don't know if it would matter at the end of the game, but yeah, Wayward still flexing his energy, his mojo, as some would call it, and IG sadly not able to come up to snuff today. These teams now are 1-1 this year.
Yep.
IG won in Spring, TES won now. But overall, again, I think this is one of TS's more clean series in terms of how they understood how their comp should be playing. I feel like in both games, it looked like, sure, again, we were hitting on moments where maybe the coordination wasn't there, the timing wasn't there for TS, but in both games, it looked like they always understood how these comps should be able to play out. We got the fun pick of the brand in Game 2, this huge 5v5 Cyclone, Renata ultimate, brand ultimate, and they brought the pieces together.
It's nice to see. Like, again, some concerns with top Esports. They got to top 4, but there's a lot of hope. There's a lot of... I get a lot of promise in this team, and not delivering at the start of the split would be a massive question mark. Against WE, game number 1, I thought, well, Ooh, I don't know if you call that compelling. Like, Top Esports were challenged. And even here in the series, it was a bit more dominant from Top Esports. But IG did challenge them today. And I think it's a good sign of IG, but also a sign that Top Esports are still moving into the split and getting the pieces together.
Yeah, I think we saw good things from both sides in terms of, like, IG in the early game can compete. Yep. IG in the early game can compete with anyone, right? Their early game, like, macro, their early game aggression is good. For Top Esports, it's like they were still doing good in the early game, but their mid game was where it was much better. And obviously, we think back to spring playoffs, Top Esports mid game was their big kind of Achilles heel, just bringing them down. So sure, it might be against a team that was lower in spring, but still being able to show these consistent moments where you know how to push an advantage forward without trying to flip a Baron or without just over forcing picks was exactly what you want to see from TS for people who think that they can go on to pick up the LPL championship this year. So again, good to see growth come out from both sides. I feel like as someone who loves the LPL, that's kind of all you ask for is like, hey, are each of these teams improving and are we seeing more from their series? And today the answer was yes.
Yeah, for sure. And, people like Mark and JackeyLove as well having a pretty good performance.
Except the Kalista, sometimes a little bit questionable.
Maybe JackeyLove just didn't care. Maybe he just had to throw it out to let
maybe Mark did something. Exactly, yeah. Maybe Mark pissed him off somehow and he just show him like, hey, I was here first. I'm the big daddy of the spot lane.
I mean, doesn't the support choose where to be thrown? Like, choose to come out at all? So
yeah. So
maybe Mark was the one who's like, you know what? He's the one with the big kahuna. So it's nice to see. Nice to see at the very least, bot lane having fun, but more importantly, being that aggressive. That's what we know about IG and Top Esports. That's why you and I were setting this up as such a big deal, because in our little Great Ninja War, IG and Top Esports not only shed blood, but kind of take risks. They are riskier teams. And that's why, going head-to-head, it might not be a big kill game, but it was very entertaining throughout.
Yeah, and coming to the damage graph again, should once again, 2 games in a row, being the highest damage deal on the side of IG. That is honestly absurd, thinking about your jungler consistently being the highest damage share of your team. That is like literally unheard of for, the past few years of play when we don't have things like, big carry Graveses or Kindreds or these things in the meta. So good by him. But ultimately, the story was still a story of Top Esports. Knight, Wayward, JackeyLove, all kind of spreading the damage quite nicely. I am so happy we got a brand today, even though it wasn't super showy. It was cool to see these more interesting counter picks coming out against new meta picks, right? Swain, very much a new meta pick, and now we see one of the answers coming out in the brand, and Knight as well, 90.9% KP, huge. And,
it wasn't showy, but it also, when we look at the stats chart, I guess it was, right? It was just this hidden damage source that kept ramping up, and, Knight in these fights, he might not have picked up the kills from that little two-man pick-off by him and Wayward,